honor, duty, service. At the Veteran Crowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the VeteranCrowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The Veteran Crowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club. Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the Veteran Crowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Everybody, this is your host, Bob Louthen. My guest today, Chris Anthony in Columbia, Maryland. He is an Army veteran, founder of TeamWorx Security. We're going to be talking cyber and IT today. Chris, welcome to the program. Thank you for stepping into the spotlight.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about TeamWorx. Tell us what you do. Tell us about the business.
So TeamWorx was something that just happened. You know, being an entrepreneur or startup founder was never in the cards. Early in my military career, you know, I was one of two people in the Ranger Regiment that had a computer. And because of that, Colonel McChrystal at the time was looking for somebody technical. And I guess if you had a computer back then, you were considered technical. So we built a tactical network that allowed people and technology to come together. And in this case, it was for the operations order planning event, which on average for a Ranger battalion and all of its partners took about 5 to 7 days. And we built a network using computers in 96, 97 and on that basically helped streamline and create efficiencies, helped automate a lot of the more manual things that we did. Back then, we wrote down everything on pen and paper. You know, I still carry what I learned then and what I learned through the years following. 10th Special Forces Group picked it up, JSOC and the Special Operations community. And I was just told recently from somebody who's at the Ranger Regiment that they still use that TACLAN that was initially created in the mid-90s. I do the same thing today, and TeamWorx Security is a result of working by way of Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab, where we created a platform that helped offense and defense folks and intelligence folks and decision makers come together in real time across this thing that we call the cyber domain or the cyber mission. And it's roughly the same thing I was doing in the mid-90s. And TeamWorx Security, because of that initial product, was launched October 1st of 2016. And that product is now being used in about 11 to 1,200 different places across our customer base and continuing to grow. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're a data sciences and software engineering company that focuses on the warfighter or the end user, as Steve Jobs would say, and we work backwards and we try to create capabilities for folks who are at the tactical level, then the operational level, then the strategic level, to use some military jargon. And so it's the same thing I've been doing for the about last 26, 27 years.
Are your customers both government and private sector?
So they are the DoD, government, and because of the partnerships that we have throughout our customer base, we're starting to pick up more and more public and private commercial industry partners.
Let's talk about the cyber threat generally. I mean, you know, people, we hear about it in the news and so forth, but This is a big deal. I mean, we had a pipeline shutdown recently. We have, all of these things going on. Can you kind of give us the lay of the land on the cyber threat as it is today? Most people just don't know about it.
I'm not one to walk around and say the sky is falling, but in this case, cybersecurity, the cyber domain, everything that we see in cyberspace is, I won't say under attack, but it's potentially threatened. There's a lot of bad folks out there in cyberspace. There's a lot of good folks and good things. But we tend to read about the things that are going on that are bad, like the pipeline attack that recently hit. That was real close to home in terms of how it affects our way of life as a democracy and as a country. But we are under duress. Every single industry, tens of thousands of organizations, individuals in this country are under some sort of duress, and in some cases under attack. And about 8 years ago, I sat down with a two-star general on Capitol Hill as he was explaining to his congressman the very same definition of what is cyber and what does it mean to us as a country. Mm-hmm. And we are at times under attack and at times under duress, and our way of life at times is being threatened. And at the beginning of our country, what we did is we came together as settlements and camps in small cities along the East Coast back at the beginning of our country. And we came together to be able to first identify, these threats and then deal with these threats. We haven't done that yet as a country. If you think that you personally, your business, your industry, somebody hasn't been affected, chances are you're wrong. It is something
that
that
sort of blissfully ignorant of the situation is the way I feel about it. What I don't know isn't scaring me.
Right. I'm not one to scare anybody. But if you don't think your personal information hasn't been compromised, maybe that's the trigger, Bob. Maybe that's the thing that, unless it happens to you, you're not going to care. You're not even going to think about it. And maybe that's who we are. But at some point, they're going to poke that wrong bear, and they being people you read about in the newspapers. And we're going to come together and start to fight back even more so.
If we've fallen into this trap, I mean, people just put all kinds of personal information on the internet through platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn, and you and I are participants in LinkedIn for sure. But we're walking around with electronic devices that are gathering data on us all the time, where we are, who we're talking to, who we're texting, right. Pictures. People are sending all kinds of pictures, personal information via these devices. It strikes me there's enormous risk.
I think there's risk, but there's also a responsibility and maybe an opportunity for business owners or technology that we haven't even thought of yet. I don't think what you said is going to go away. I mean, if you were to ask my kids, who are just getting into, computers and looking at our cell phones and wanting cell phones, et cetera. This is the future. This is who we are as not only a country, but this is who we are as, a human race. Technology is here to stay. I think it's up to folks like us and other businesses and technology providers to figure out how to make all of that safe. It gives us a great deal of responsibility, but opportunity. We haven't figured it out yet.
What is the biggest source of the threat right now? I mean, is it nation states? Is it organized crime? Is it a hacker in somebody's basement?
Well, I tend to use the term hacker as a good thing. Back when I was doing this, way before cyber was created or used, the word cyber, hackers were a good thing. We experimented with technology and we would try to break it. And some people still do that today. To best answer your question, the biggest threat that we have, whether it's here in the United States or other, is the human. We tend to prefer convenience over security. It's the biggest threat in any industry with any technology in any country is the human, right? Mm-hmm. We just don't think of things in terms of what you and I are talking about today. We think in terms of look, I just need to access my pictures and I want to, meet new people online using my mobile device or other. And that's where the vulnerability is. And it will always be the human.
I still think about this from time to time. I have all of this money and I can't lay my hands on it, but I know I have it. What if tomorrow I couldn't prove that I had $2,000 in a bank account? I mean, the reality is if you had to go prove it, it would be pretty hard, right? We're so reliant upon this that, it just strikes me that we could have a disaster, a financial disaster as a result of this. And yet I can sleep at night for some reason. Am I relatively safe, or should I be more cautious?
That's a question for the financial industry, and they would assure you that, they would probably point to the FDIC or something, but I don't think we should be afraid. I think that we should be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
What's in a bank, whether it's a physical thing or some sort of electronic thing, how do you prove it? I don't know. But I'm not also collecting gold coins and throwing them in my basement either. So I just don't know, but I would defer to the financial industry. Some folks that you and I know of are tied very closely with that industry. And I think we're doing very well as far as cybersecurity. Will something happen in the future? I think something will always happen in the future. And again, this is where technology is then going to be challenged to either address that beforehand, during, or after.
You mentioned another side of the coin, so to speak, kind of the offensive element of cyber. I don't know what you can share with me in that regard, but can we talk a little bit about maybe it's mutually assured destruction here. I'm kind of hopeful that the United States has capabilities that would make people not want to mess with us. Can we touch on any of that? I mean, you certainly, we've had situations where centrifuges were shut down in Iran as obviously an offensive step by somebody, right?
Right. We certainly have escalation. The way that I talk about that is you have, a bunch of big boys and big girls all living on the same block. And every now and then they get in each other's face and, they try to mix it up a little bit. And it's a constant reminder that there are many equalizers, whether it's cyber, kinetic, or other. Some better today and somebody else better tomorrow. But from time to time, I think that we let the world know who we are and the world lets us know who they are. And I can't say who's better, but I know where I put my money. And but I do sleep safe, calmly at night, rather, knowing that we've got some really good people who work that part of the mission, both sides and all. Cyber is 20-30% technical, right? The rest is decision-making and process and coordination and this and that. And I think we do really well there, whether it's offense, defense, intelligence and decision-making and partnering. So some of the other big boys and girls still have a lot of catching up to do, but they're catching up fast.
It's the poor man's weapon of mass destruction, though, a little bit, in the sense that a little bit of money can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So that, hey, we're talking with Chris Anthony. He's an Army veteran and head of TeamWorx Security. Chris, I want to shift gears with you a little bit. Tell everybody what you did in the military, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, concepts about being a veteran in business and that sort of thing. What'd you do? Tell everybody how you got into the Army.
I woke up one day as an executive in a very young executive in a company, and decided that this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I drove down to the local recruiter and enlisted right there on the spot. And I think that was
some people trying to talk you out of it.
I don't think I told anybody.
Uh-huh.
I just went down to the recruiting station and did it. My grandfather, World War II, Korea, Vietnam vet.
Hmm.
My cousin was in the Army at the time. I didn't really know too much about the Army or what I wanted to do, but I did know that I wanted to join the military. And what I initially signed up for was this thing called the Airborne Ranger contract, which I did not know what that was at the time. All I knew is that I had asked for the hardest, I would even say stupidest thing that I could sign up for, right? What's the hardest thing that you can throw at me at the time? And they signed me up for that. And I enlisted April of 1995, and I made it to the Ranger Regiment, I believe, in December of that year. And then that's when the real training started. So I came in as a communicator, and then soon moved to being an analyst, threat analyst. And I felt I was good at what I did. I loved what I did. I loved every minute of it, despite how hard it was at times. I had the opportunity to attend and graduate Ranger School, and things like SEER School and pre-scuba and all of these different things that challenged me both physically and mentally. And I didn't know it at the time, but that, in a sense, is preparing you for life, I think. And I still look at those days as something that I'll finally remember for the rest of my life. But throughout I was in the military for about 12 years. I medically retired, and I just had a great time. I learned a lot. I traveled the world in and out of conflict, and I tell you what, just thinking about it right now gives me goosebumps. But I met a lot of great people in my time, and then I got married at the tail end. Was in Hawaii when I finally got rolled out because of medical reasons, and thought that that's where my life would be for the rest of my life. I enjoyed the lifestyle. I enjoyed the folks in Hawaii. We were close to the military community, and lo and behold, I got recruited by the Applied Physics Lab here in Maryland, and I didn't even know what that was. But I had asked some of my intelligence community friends, and I got thumbs up across the board. And we had at the time, kid number 2 is what I call K2 on the way, and the cost of living in Hawaii is a bit high. With one kid, you can do it. With my wife and I working. With 2 kids, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So we decided
what part of the country did you grow up in? I didn't ask that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Texas, just north of Dallas, and that's where I pretty much grew up and learned a lot. Basically my upbringing. But I have a lot of family in Texas and California and other parts of the country.
Hey, one of the things we chatted about before we kind of got on the air was, I've got an emphasis on veteran entrepreneurship. You got some thoughts on that? I mean, what do you think? You think your military experience has helped you be an entrepreneur? Do you think your military experience helps other people in business generally?
I think so. Some of the things I was just reading on your profile, and I had read them previous. Military folks are resilient, and they're used to tough times and challenging times. I always felt that I cheated a bit in that growing up, my parents were small business owners. Mm-hmm. So on the weekends, I was
what kind of business were they in?
We owned a couple grocery stores, gas stations, sporting goods store, self-serve laundromat, so just a lot of small business.
You had a job as a member of the family. Yeah.
I was either scraping gum off the floor or stocking shelves on the weekend in the grocery stores. And that's how I made my video game money.
Uh-huh.
So I think it was there. The military, reintroduced that, I'd say discipline and focus. Military folks in general, they're entrepreneurs and they just don't even know it. And I think that they're not afraid to assume some risk. They have a ton of resources at their disposal, more so today than they did 10 years ago. And they're just certainly a pleasure to work with at all levels. I speak to veterans every Wednesday and sometimes throughout the week. Yeah, I think that this country needs more veteran entrepreneurs for sure.
And I think the military gives us failure, which is a great life lesson. I think it gives you some disciplines. What do you think about personal accountability, and also ethics? What does the military teach you about those things?
I came up through the military and I was introduced to leadership early on. When I got to my team, my entire team was on profile for one reason or another, which is why I went to Ranger School. I got bumped up the line and went to Ranger School very quickly after I got into the Ranger Regiment. And that vaulted me into, early promotions and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it allowed me to really grasp, at least understand it, and start to learn how to lead people from a team leader to a squad leader to an operations lead type of thing. It's one thing to lead a bunch of Rangers, where the F word is every other word, and it's a bit different on this side of the world. And I think leadership is something that I'll always be learning about. We'll continue to understand how I apply what I learned in the military to this side. We've got 22, 23 folks here, and many of whom haven't been in the military.
How do you think your military experience drives or sets the culture for TeamWorx?
I had to learn that the hard way. Special Forces has a 12-man team. And that's how I had initially built TeamWorx in our leadership team, where we wear multiple hats, even though our title says one thing. And I believed, and we did for a while, we could build a company around that philosophy. And then you start hiring folks who haven't been in the military. And, we hire the right folks. We don't hire just a certain person and with a certain background. But I had to relearn everything, not from a leadership perspective, but from what you said earlier. It's just a little bit different, dealing with different types of personalities. And I can't cuss like I used to, but every now and then I'll let one slip.
I can, but I don't. Hey, you talked about creating a technical platform for the op order, and you talk about that in TeamWorx. I mean, I find myself using the 5-paragraph op order to plan things in business. Do you do that?
I do, and we also created this thing called the Cyber 9 line. So you're familiar with the 9 line, and I do use a lot of military jargon and references from my military career in how we build things today, considering a large majority of our user base are in the military or in the government. So there's strong references to that. So yes, I do. We even use a thing called Cyber 9 line.
So what does the next couple of years hold for TeamWorx? What's the vision? Where are you going?
Yeah, so the vision is, what are we going to do? What are we going to be doing for the next 3 to 5 years? Where 2 years ago we really couldn't tell you that. What's interesting about the defense tech space, as I call it, is building the technology is easy, and understanding the mission is easy, and learning how to work with our government partners and customers is rather difficult from a contracting perspective. So myself and my co-founder, we had to learn something brand new very, very quickly. Otherwise, we were on a sinking ship.
Business would be a lot easier if people weren't involved in it, right?
If I can automate things away, I'd certainly try. We know what we're going to be doing 3 years from now, from a financial perspective, from an operations perspective, from an R&D and technology perspective. We're very confident in that assessment and in us achieving those goals. We're adding more type services to our portfolio and, expanding a bit outside of our, we do a lot of natural language processing development and data analytic development. And so we're moving outside of that just a bit, software engineering. So we're really challenging ourselves both internally and externally to push the envelope. The goal, I'd really like to do what we do for at least another 5 years. Come to find out, when you have some successes in this industry, there are other folks who will either want to partner with you or maybe acquire you. And we'd like to keep this going for as long as we can. And we're having fun. We're learning a ton every day as to how we build a company, then build teams to help run the company. General McChrystal said it best in his book, Team of Teams. We build communities of communities, and that allows us to continue engaging our military audience, our federal customer audience. Keeps things interesting. And whether I'm doing this or whatever I do next, I hope it has something to do with the customers that we currently work with.
Chris, how do people get in touch with you?
So I could be reached at teamworxsecurity.com. Works is spelled W-O-R-X. We're located here in Columbia, Maryland, at the Maryland Innovation Center off of Columbia Gateway Drive. It's a Howard County initiative, incubator, where they have and host a lot of veteran-owned small businesses and other small businesses. So we're pretty easy to find.
We'll put links to TeamWorx and to Chris Anthony on the show notes. Chris, 25 minutes goes by quick, man, when you're talking interesting stuff. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I really appreciate you stepping into the spotlight.
Hey, Bob, it was great to meet you. I appreciate what you do, and I thank you for your service.
Hey, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. We bring guests into your home every week. You can follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. So please, if you get in there, please subscribe and follow us. I'm going to throw out an Army Bravo Zulu to my friend Chris Anthony at TeamWorx Security. Thanks so much for being on the program. And folks, that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.